All right, we're going to look at vertical and horizontal lines. So we're going to look at graphing those, and then, well, actually, we're just going to look at graphing a few of those, and then we'll look at writing the equation for those, and then we'll finish off with some of the graphing as well. So horizontal and vertical lines. First of all, let's do this first part, just so you can see a horizontal and a vertical line. So notice that we have X's and Y's, so those form ordered pairs. So if we want to graph each of those, let's see, 1, -5 would be 1, down, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So right here, all right, then 1, -2 would be over to 1, down to -2, 1, 0 would be here. Let's see, 1, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, be right here. All right, now, if we were to draw a straight line through each of those points, you would see that we have a vertical line, which mine's not straight, but that's okay. Okay, so now that gives you a frame of reference of what a vertical line looks like. Now, the note that I want you to, or the thing I want you to notice is this. Look at all the X's. All the X's are the exact same because a vertical line will go through the x-axis at one point. And so the equation for our line, you'll see in a minute, will actually use where that vertical line goes through the x-axis. So we will actually use this point, x equals 1. All right, or I guess 1, 0. All right, so now horizontal line, just notice now we switch things. Now all the y's are the same. So that'll come into play in a second. So -3, -4, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, right here. All right, then 1, -4, 1. Oh, wait. Yeah, 1 down to -4. Okay, 2 to -4 right here. And then 5 to -4. Okay, now notice if we draw a line through this, we have a flat or horizontal line. All right, now the y's are all the same, so notice that I never crossed over my x-axis. I'm actually intersecting my y-axis. That's why all the y values are the exact same. All these y values have 4 or -4 as the y value. So here's what that means. When we look at the equation for a line, the vertical line is only intersecting the x-axis. It could be on top of the y-axis, but we need it to intersect at a perpendicular angle, which means essentially it looks like a cross. It would have to cross like this to make a perpendicular angle, but just for reference, it'll make a cross-looking shape. Okay, now a vertical line, once again, only crosses through the x-axis. So when we write the equation for that line, we actually write it x equals, and then we see where does that line cross through the x-axis, and that's the point we use for our equation. So this vertical line up here, the equation is actually x equals 1. So all vertical lines will be x equals, and then our number that corresponds with where our graph intersected our x-axis. So like if we got rid of all this, once again, we could say, okay, our line was just a straight line. Where did it go through the x-axis? It went through at 1. So that means x equals 1 is the equation for that line. All right, now, the opposite of vertical is horizontal. Now, the horizontal line is only going to cut through at a perpendicular angle the y-axis, which once again, perpendicular just means, it means 90 degrees, but that'll come later in geometry. Just know it means it has to form a cross, okay? It has to look like a cross. Now, when we look at our horizontal line, we're asking, okay, this is a horizontal line. Where does it intersect that y-axis? And it would be at -4 right here. So y equals -4 is our equation. All right, so we can go down here and put that down here. So for horizontal lines, they will always begin with y equals, then it will be just a number. So instead of y equals mx plus b, there's no y equals mx plus b here. It's just x or y equals. All right, so x equals, and then there will be, or y equals, and then there will be a number. All right, so now let's practice that. So remember, we can just make this note. If the line intersects the x-axis, it's x equals. If it intersects the y-axis, it's y equals. All right, now let's look at number one. So first of all, we have to ask ourselves, what type of line is number one? And it's vertical. The second question is, okay, does it intersect my x-axis or my y-axis? And if you look, the y-axis is right here. So those two lines are not intersecting. They're not touching at all. So it's intersecting this x-axis. Or think about it like this. It has to make a cross. And if we were to draw these two, those two lines would make a cross. All right? So this is where our x-axis tells us that this is going to be x equals. Now, the way we find what that something is, what x is equal to, we find the point where this vertical line intersects that x-axis. And it would be right here. So then we say, okay, what number, what coordinate would that be on the x-axis? So it would be at 1, 2, 3, 4. We went to the left, so it's -4. So that means x equals -4 for number one. All right, let's look at another one. And you can start to do these on your own. Just pause the video, try it, and see if you can get it. All right, so number two. Number two, let's first establish, is it horizontal or vertical? You can answer that. All right, you should have said horizontal. All right, so this is going from left to right. That's a horizontal line. And then we ask ourselves, okay, I need to know if I start with y equals or x equals. All right. Now, to determine that, we figure out what axis does this horizontal line intersect. So if we go to the y-axis, you're essentially saying, okay, which one of these is going to make a cross? And if you look, this green line, which is the y-axis, and our horizontal line would make a cross-looking shape. So this graph intersects the y-axis. Or if you wanted to do this, you could say, okay, does it intersect the x-axis? And the answer is no, because the horizontal line and the x-axis are actually parallel to each other, which don't worry about what that means right now. Just know they're not intersecting. They are not crossing. They're not making a cross, basically, a cross-looking shape. All right, so we are intersecting the y-axis, which means we're going to have y equals. Now, the next question is, okay, y equals what? And for that, we find where does this line cross that y-axis? And it would be right here. So that would be at +1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So y equals 6, which I did not mean to make it that big. There we go. All right. Now, let's do a few more. And then we'll go to some of the other problems. All right. Now, number 3. Let's see if we can start doing this quicker. So pause the video, see if you can do 3 and 4, and then we'll go over it. Actually, see if you can do 3, 4, 5, and 6, because we'll go over those. All right. So number 3, vertical line. We need to know x or y equals. Now, I'm going to say it's x equals. Let's see if I'm right on that. The reason I'm saying it's x equals is because I'm looking at my graph and I'm saying, okay, this line intersects the x-axis, and the x-axis and this vertical line make a cross. So I'm going to say, okay, let's make sure that happens. If we look at the y-axis and the x-axis, or the y-axis and this vertical line are not touching, not intersecting, not making a cross. So it has to be x equals. All right, so then we'll say, okay, x equals what? Well, for that, we look at where does this vertical line cross the x-axis, and it would go through right here at x equals 2. So that's our equation for that line. All right. Number 4, if I were to say, okay, this is the x-axis. I know that the x-axis and this horizontal line are not touching, so it has to intersect the y-axis. So y equals, where does it intersect? It intersects right here. That would be, actually, what am I talking about? It intersects right here. That would be at y equals, that would be -1. All right, so once again, it all depends whether or not you write x equals or y equals, all depends on it being horizontal or vertical first. Then it depends on what axis is intersected. It could be x or y, but that tells you if it's x equals or y equals. All right, so once again, try 5 and 6 on your own, and then we'll do those. So 5. On number 5, here's my vertical line. It is not intersecting this y-axis because those two are not making a cross. It's not even touching that y-axis. But it is intersecting this x-axis, and it's intersecting right here at this point. And that would be at 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So x equals 8. All right. Then 6. Let's see. This one's a tricky one because they actually give you this horizontal line right here, and it's on top of the x-axis. All right. This is why I made the note that for some people, it's better to view this as a cross being made because technically this line is on top of the x-axis. So, I mean, I guess in a way it's intersecting all those points. All right. But it's not making a cross. If I were to go over the x-axis, it would be right here. And you can see they're right on top of each other. So they are touching, but they don't make a cross. This horizontal line makes a cross with this y-axis. So we would say y equals. All right. And then it actually goes through right here at the origin, which would be at 0. So this would be y equals 0. I think number 6 is one of the trickier problems to do. But remember, you want your vertical or horizontal line to make a cross with either the x or y axis. That's what we mean by intersecting, all right, in this case. All right, so now let's look at graphing each of these. All right, so when we look at graphing each of these, let's look at number 7 first. It says y equals -7, all right? So now, I know when I have either x equals or y equals, like in 7 and 8, I'm either going to have a horizontal or vertical line. If it doesn't give you an x or like an mx plus b form, and you have y or x equals, that means horizontal or vertical. Now, 7, we have y equals. So here's what we know. We know, based upon what we've just been over, I'm going to cross this y-axis at an angle that will make a cross. All right, so that means I can't do this. I can't be vertical because if I'm vertical, there's no way to have a vertical line cut through the y-axis and make a cross. They're just going to be right on top of each other or side by side. Like if I made a vertical line over here, it's side by side with this vertical x-axis. All right, so it's not possible to have a vertical line and be y equals. All right, so it has to be horizontal, which means I'm going to go to -7 and I'm going to make a point. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Now, once again, if I cut through this at a vertical angle and go up and down, I'm not going to be making a cross with my y-axis. And that's the rule. I have to make a cross, essentially, or it has to intersect. All right, so I'm going to make a horizontal line, and that's all I have to do. It's basically remembering a few key parts, and then you don't need any extra points for this horizontal line. All of these points on this horizontal line, we know are just going to be straight points, or it's going to form a straight line. So we can just draw our straight line, and we're good to go. All right, now 8 changes to x equals. Now, let's go through this process again. If I have x equals, here's what that means. I need to intersect this x-axis at an angle or with a line that makes a cross. All right? If I were to try to draw a horizontal line, that's not going to make a cross with this x-axis. Like, I'll draw it, but you can see this red line and the blue line, one's the x-axis, one's a horizontal line. Those two will never cross and make an actual cross. They will never make a cross, so it can't be horizontal. All right, but it has to be vertical. Because if I were to draw a vertical line, now with my x-axis and that vertical line, I'm going to make a cross. All right, so I'm going to go to 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, and that's where my point's going to be. And then all I have to know is, okay, can't make a horizontal line, has to be vertical. So the vertical line needs to go straight through my points, which mine's jacked up, but make the line as straight as you can, and that's how we do it. All right, so try 9 and 10, and then we'll go over those. All right, so on 9 and 10, we're dealing with the same thing here. Now, on number 9, we're looking at x equals -3. So you answer this. Should I be making a cross with the y-axis or the x-axis? It should be the x-axis, all right? Now, would I need a vertical line to do that, or do I need a horizontal line to do that? And hopefully you're saying vertical line. A vertical line in the x-axis would make an actual cross, okay? So I'm going to go to -3 on the x, 1, 2, 3, which would be right here. And then I'm going to draw a straight line through that is vertical. All right. And if you notice, if I were to draw a line over the x-axis, we have made a cross, so we've done this correctly, which mine completely misses the point, but you get the idea. All right. Number 10, try this one. All right. Ask yourself, am I trying to make a cross with the y or the x with the new line I'm going to draw? All right. And you should be saying the y, because this is y equals. Now, once again, if I were to go through at a horizontal angle, that would be or make a cross with the y-axis. So our line's going to be horizontal, so we're going to go to 2, which would be here on the y-axis, and then we're going to draw a horizontal line through that, and that's what we do. All right, so now let's go over a few additional questions. All right, so now, number 11 is asking you, what is the slope of the line y equals 5? So to know how to do this, we have to remember, is y equals 5 a horizontal line or a vertical line? So if you need to, go back to one of these graphs and look at it. When we had y equals 5 or y equals 2 here, we had to intersect the y-axis and make a cross. So we did that with a horizontal line. So this is horizontal, all right? So this is horizontal. Now, do we remember what's the slope of a horizontal line? The slope is 0. All right, now let's do another one. So what is the slope of a line x equals -2? All right, so think about it. Try to think about, okay, is it vertical, horizontal? Then ask yourself, okay, what's the slope of vertical or horizontal? All right. Now, if we go back to previous problems, we could figure this one out, or think about it this way. If it's x equals, I need to cross the x-axis at a angle that will make a cross, okay, with a line that will make an actual cross. That means it needs to be vertical. Now, the slope of a vertical line, if you remember, is undefined. All right. So let's see. Try number 3. We'll worry about number 14, or try number 13. We'll worry about 14 when I get back and 15 when I get back. But that gives you a good idea of what these look like, and you're going to get some additional practice on the other worksheet.